Backwards hat.
Yeah, I had to. All right. What's going on, people? We are back. Saber Sports is back. Got a packed show for you guys today. Got my main folks with me, Jay Will, Jeremiah Williams, and Monet Money Davis. We're hyped. I'm feeling good. I'm excited. I've got
What's going
you
on?
guys. No, it's how y'all feeling? How y'all feeling? Y'all ready for tonight?
Everybody good?
I'm ready.
All right, man. It's good to be back here with the crew. But we are 2 months away from the season opener of the NFL season, Chiefs versus Ravens, AFC Championship rematch. We know how that went. Chiefs coming out on top, end up going back to their second consecutive Super Bowl and winning their second consecutive Super Bowl. But the question of the night, guys, is who is the biggest threat to a possible three-peat for the Chiefs? The Chiefs getting the first back-to-back Super Bowl win since the early 2000s Patriots with Tom Brady, but they could possibly do it a third time this year. But guys, which team is the biggest threat to the Chiefs in the AFC from stopping them from getting a three-peat? Jay Will, what you think?
This answer is very easy, and it's the Cincinnati Bengals, right? And the reason why I say this, we all know that Patrick Mahomes is a gunslinger. Like, he can throw, if he needs, he can throw 8 touchdowns. I look at that when I'm looking at the Cincinnati Bengals because of Joe Burrow. I feel like he can go touchdown for touchdown with Patrick Mahomes. He's already beaten him once, so we know that that's there. I think with the weapons with T. Higgins, he's able to, find wide receivers in different areas. They're able to run the ball, and I feel like they're very they're diverse in their offense. They can run the football and they can throw. I feel like with Joe Burrow, he understands the game. He understands what it needs to win versus the Chiefs. And I think that, he's the guy to, take Patrick Mahomes down. So I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Mo, what you think?
Not the Bengals for sure. I mean, if you ask me, I would love anybody to just take down the Chiefs. I feel like they give me the vibes of the Warriors. At one point in time, people were so tired of seeing the Warriors Cavs going against each other at all times, and people just wanted anybody to beat them. And I feel like that's what it feels like right now. But I would love to see. I want to see Lamar win so bad. I feel like he's had his MVP seasons and he just hasn't gotten over the hump. I felt like this past season was their year to beat the Chiefs, go to the Super Bowl, have the chance to win it all. And as we saw, they didn't play the greatest. They just did not look like the Ravens that they were all season. I would have to go with, for sure, Lamar. I want to see Lamar win. I want to see him get his respect no matter how many MVP he wins. I feel like he never gets that respect. And I think if he's able to go out and beat the Chiefs, I think that respect is going to come.
Right.
Yeah, see, I'm going to have to disagree with both of you guys. I think, well, one, just to make it clear, I really don't think any team can stop the Chiefs from getting to a third Super Bowl this year. I don't think so, because we saw them at their worst this past season. Leading the league in drops, first in drops, guys like Kadarius Toney not being able to really get it done, be as effective and as efficient as they usually are through the air, but being able to find different ways to win. That comes through excellent coaching from Andy Reid. That comes through just being a great quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, just being a great leader, and then having a guy you can depend on like Travis Kelce, who also had his worst year out of his career as of late. But if there is a team who has the biggest chance, I got to go with the Texans. I think the Texans this year had the biggest chance to stop the Chiefs just because of all the additions that they made this offseason. We know they have a proven great coach in D'Amico, and CJ Stroud is definitely their guy, a guy who is a franchise quarterback. Was top 5, really top 3 in passing this past season. And then, having standout receivers like Nico Collins and Tank Dell, but then you bring in a true number 1 receiver in Stephon Diggs, and then a true starting running back in Joe Mixon, adding him to Damian Pierce, having that running back duo in the backfield. And then you add a guy like Daniil Hunter on the defensive end of the ball, so now you have a key pass rush duo in Hunter and Anderson Jr. Two guys you really have to really double team coming off the edge, and you can't double team them both. So I feel like with a strong pass rush, with what could be a lights out aerial assault this year from CJ Stroud and that receiver room under D'Amico Ryan's aggressive coaching, I feel like I definitely see the Texans getting back or going to the AFC Championship this year, but that's the question. I'm not sure if they have enough to stop the Chiefs, to stop a playoff Chiefs team, especially after picking up the fastest guy in the draft this year, and then adding him, and then bringing in Hollywood Brown as well. So, and then, a seasoned Travis Kelce. I don't see any team in the AFC really making it past the Chiefs. But in terms of who is the biggest threat, I'm gonna have to go with the Texans. But go ahead, Jerry.
It's not happening because, so I'll start with, granted, I want to see Lamar Jackson, get over the hump, because I'm a huge fan. I love what they're doing in Baltimore. I love that team, but I don't think he has enough passing ability to outscore Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. And I say this all the time. The playoffs is very dialed in. You have time to key on the team. And again, my problem with Lamar Jackson is in the playoffs, right? They create that wall. And it's crazy. It's the wall, like, with Giannis. You know how Giannis had the same issue. They create the wall where make us throw the ball. Let me see how well you can throw the ball for 4 quarters. And Lamar has yet to do that. Now with the Texans, right? I'll go here. Shane, you said they have a lot of options, which they do. But I'm still looking at the youth and the experience. That plays a huge part in the playoffs. So I look at that. And the reason why I say the Bengals is because I understand Joe Burrow has weapons. I understand he can throw the ball very well. I understand that he has experience, and I understand, most importantly, he has beaten Patrick Mahomes. So it's already been done. He just has to convert in the playoffs. That's what I'm looking at.
No, you're right.
Honestly,
I think go ahead, Mo. Go ahead, Mo.
I was gonna say, honestly, both make very valid points. I feel like the Texans are, for me, the most exciting team to look forward to this year, just because we saw their potential kind of show at the end of at last season.
Right.
And so with these new additions that they have, I think they might have the edge over the Bengals to beat the Chiefs.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So it's like the Chiefs, Texans, then the Bengals. Like, are we saying in regards to contender wise, or?
No. In guards. So I'm saying, obviously the Chiefs. Everybody wants to beat the Chiefs,
Correct.
But I'm saying as far as we have the Bengals and the Texans, if we're just looking at those two teams, in my opinion, I think with how strong of a season that they just had and how hungry that they are gonna be, because CJ Stroud is a dog. He's a killer.
Yeah.
He's looking forward to just getting out there and going. Now he has that extra weapon, and Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon, just like Shane said, he has more options around him to actually really show what he can do. And I think they're just so young that they're just so hungry that they want to go out and just kill anybody that's in front of them.
Dominate, yeah.
You see, my thing is, I feel like the Texans are in a very unique situation right now where they have a contending team while their franchise quarterback is still under rookie contract. They don't have to pay him big money yet. So they have money to be able to bring in these other guys to reinforce the team. Right. And if we're looking in the past, there have been quarterbacks who in their second year starting have taken a huge step forward from their first year starting and went to a Super Bowl. We saw that in Joe Burrow, being injured his first year, but taking a big step between his first full season starting and his second full season starting, and he goes on to a Super Bowl. He goes from, a 2,000 yard season, 3,000 yard season to over 3,000 yards and making it to the Super Bowl. We saw that in Jalen Hurts in his second year starting. But going from low 3,000s to throwing for 3,700 yards and making it to the Super Bowl. So I feel like we can see this same thing in CJ Stroud because, and also another pattern is once these guys got more weapons around them, Joe Burrow gets Jamar Chase, he goes to a Super Bowl, makes his step forward. Jalen Hurts gets AJ Brown, takes his step forward in his second year starting, goes to the Super Bowl. So now CJ Stroud, who was already a top 5 passer in his first year starting, his true rookie season, you bring in a true give him a true receiver one in Stephon Diggs, but also another top 10 back in the league, either if you want to go on production or just overall talent, top 10 back in the league who can start. Mm-hmm. So you're giving him more weapons in his second year starting, where now he's gotten his feet wet in the league, but not only got his feet wet, but was a very impactful player his first year. I feel like them being the threat to the team that could very well be an official dynasty, after their third year in the Super Bowl, consecutive year in the Super Bowl. I feel like if we're looking at teams who could be the biggest threat, especially when you have in consideration what we have seen in the past from high performing quarterbacks like CJ Stroud, I feel like them being the biggest threat to the Chiefs is really the biggest or is really the most likely outcome.
It's going to be interesting to see because I think this also has to do with like a record as well, because we understand the playoffs, like, obviously if you're the top team, you get home field advantage. And this is a pivotal season for, the Ravens, Bengals, and the Texans to, kind of have a great regular season so that when it comes time to go against the Chiefs, they can be in their own backyard, because that's another factor we don't talk about, that Chiefs weather, that cold, that fan base that's roaring all the time, and that plays a part. So I think it's very key. And also with the Texans, like I said, I love their weapons. It's just going to be interesting to see like how big of a gap CJ Stroud takes, because it's literally, I wouldn't say it's all on him, but if they want to beat the Chiefs, he's going to have to come correct. So,
and even if we're going off, go ahead, Mo.
Just quickly, I understand the whole like playing in your backyard, whole scenario. Mm-hmm. But the Chiefs played the Ravens in their backyard, and they just dominated them. Like, I understand.
The Ravens played who?
The Ravens played the Chiefs at home in the playoffs.
Right.
And that just didn't turn out well for them.
Because the Ravens,
I get that. It's all
against them.
And see, that's why
I don't know.
Never a good.
That's why I don't see the Chiefs being the biggest threat, because, one, Lamar Jackson doesn't have a good track record in the playoffs. Going 1-3 in the playoffs. So then, and this was Lamar Jackson with arguably the best team he's had since being in the league. Having like arguably who the best defense was last season. So
I just want him to win. I just want to see him.
No, for sure. I would love to see him win, but if we're going on probability, I don't think if we're going off
the highest chances.
And then another thing is too, because this was the team that should have been the best team in the league playing a Chiefs team that was at their worst. The Chiefs are never going to be that bad again. Like that was their chance. The Chiefs are never going to be that bad again. I really feel like if the Texans would have pulled out that game with the Ravens and saw the Chiefs in the AFC Championship instead of the Ravens, I'm not saying the Texans would have won, but I think it would have been a closer game because Lamar Jackson played timid against the Chiefs. That's really why they lost. Lamar Jackson played timid. He was forcing himself to be this pocket passer guy, the QB that people said that he was incapable of being, instead of being Lamar Jackson, instead of playing like himself, so that was the problem. I really think, if Lamar Jackson would have played like Lamar Jackson, it was a very winnable game because the Chiefs weren't playing that great. They weren't playing that great, and they had quite a few calls that went in their direction as well. Kind of the Chiefs getting the benefit of the doubt with the refs in terms of, that reigning champ benefit of the doubt, that they seem to get often. But, so with the Chiefs not even playing that well and beating the Ravens, a Ravens team that was at their best aside from Lamar, I don't think that if you're a bettor, I don't think it would be wise to bet on a Ravens team this year to be the biggest threat to the Chiefs at a year where they are significantly better than they were last year. They made some adjustments on the defensive end. They brought back Chris Jones. They brought back Bolton and had a lot of young guys over there that are still under their rookie contracts too that made an impact. And bringing in Worthy and bringing in Hollywood Brown to kind of beef up that receiver room, to kind of stretch the field out more, because they had their go-to guy in Travis Kelce, but they didn't have a guy that could take the top off a defense, but also execute the play consistently. So I feel like beefing up the receiver room, I feel like they're not really going to get another chance after this.
They just like you said, they got Hollywood Brown. What were they missing? Tyreek Hill. Literally, he's not Tyreek Hill, but he can do some of the same things. Get the ball over the top. He has that speed. That's what literally they were missing. Now that they got that back, it's going to be scary because essentially they literally got, I wouldn't say call him an off-brand Tyreek Hill, but the second fiddle. So now as you do that again, okay, how are you going to beat us now? And that's what's scary about the Chiefs.
Yeah, a team like the Chiefs getting speed, like they did this in this draft, even having like the last pick in the draft, it's scarier than most other high value picks in the draft going to other teams.
Yep.
Which is crazy because, like you said, Jay, that speed is the last thing they needed. But not just speed, but speed that can finish. Speed that can tear the top off a defense, but actually catch the ball. Because we saw a lot of drops last year that really sold the game. Drops from Kadarius Toney, drops from Valdez-Scantling. That really that allowed us to escape with the win we did, Mo, with the Eagles. So I feel like getting receivers that can not only tear the top off a defense, but that can actually reel the ball in. I feel like it's just the icing on the cake for the Chiefs. And if the Chiefs were able to dominate the league with no receivers aside from Travis Kelce, it's really scary to think what they could do this year now that they have some more help.
Yeah.
But speaking of upgrades, switching gears to the NBA now. Had a couple free agencies. This has been an interesting free agency. A lot of interesting changes, location changes, people in new threads. For example, the Kings picking up DeMar DeRozan, adding him to a Fox Sabonis core, trio. And then you have over in Philly, Sixers bringing in Paul George to join Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Finally letting go of Tobias Harris. So, Mo, I'm going to start with you. Which upgrade was the biggest upgrade? DeRozan to the Kings or PG to the Sixers?
I'm going to have to go with the Sixers. Just because the Kings have been the Kings for the past however many years. They've been so good, taking the Warriors to 6 to 7 games in the playoffs. I feel like he adds to them, but I feel like they already had it. I feel like with how the Sixers have been playing lately, the past couple years, I think that's the biggest upgrade is getting that extra score. They had James Harden. He got traded. And we saw what Tyrese Maxey can do. But now let's see what he can do with a pure score that doesn't need the ball in their hands at all times. That also puts some relief on Embiid to not have to score 50 every game.
Yes.
Like you said, they got rid of Tobias Harris. He just bigger waste of space. I feel like the Sixers made the bigger upgrade just because of the help that they needed. And I think for plenty of years, everyone from Philly, just fans in general, have been recognizing that the Sixers need another scorer. And who is that scorer? They have a scorer, they have a shooter, and a defender all in one. So I think that was a great pick. It's all about getting more role players to fill in on that bench side. They picked up Caleb Martin. That was a great pickup for them. Now it's all about filling in some more roles and trying to get people for cheaper deals. So I'm excited to see them play this year. Really excited. I'm excited for Philly sports in general this year. With the Eagles getting Saquon, CD, getting them back, or getting CD back. The Sixers picking up Paul George. Philly's being the best team in baseball right now. It's a great day to be from Philly.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Philly stand up. Philly stand up. I agree with everything you said, Mo. This is an excellent pickup. When I woke up when he got traded, I was so excited for you. I actually thought about Monet Davis and Shane Fulton because I know how much you guys want Philly to get to the promised land. And I honestly think this addition helps Philly. Like you said, Mo, Paul George doesn't need the ball. He can catch and shoot. He can create his own shot. He can defend very well. He's just a solid player. He's consistent over the last couple years. I feel like you gain that extra score. Like you don't have to, like you said, Mo, you don't have to rely on Joel Embiid. And then you have Maxey as well. Like what he's becoming. He just got paid, so I'm excited for his contract. I'm excited what he's going to do this season. I think he's honestly going to take a leap. And I think now with Philly, right, you have a three-headed monster now. And you're able to, dish the rock in different areas. Whoever's going can get the ball. It's not like, oh, we know it's going to Joel. It's the pick and roll. Now you can't double Joel because you leave Paul George open. He can knock down that corner three or that side three. So you're not able to back off. I feel like with Philly, like now this puts them. I'm gonna be honest. It puts them second right now. And I think Boston is still there and number one coming off the championship. But I love what Philly's doing. You signed Andre Drummond. That is a great pickup. With that, people don't realize Andre Drummond is still a guy that can get you 15 and 10, 15 points, 10 rebounds. When Joel Embiid is obviously on the bench, you still have that presence down low. So, okay, he can be an enforcer. He can, Paul George can run the pick and roll with him. He can dish it off to him. He's going to score the ball or dunk the ball, He's there down low. So I'm really excited for this, addition. I think that Philly's going to be top two in the East. I just need Joel Embiid to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, the city of brotherly love, we might be going somewhere, fellas and ladies.
See, I'm definitely going to go with the Sixers just simply off the fact of how much of a liability Tobias Harris was.
Thank you.
At least in the playoffs. When we're talking about Tobias Harris, honestly, I would rather, it was so bad. I would rather a hurt Paul George than a healthy Tobias Harris, because a healthy Tobias Harris in the playoffs, if a healthy Tobias Harris is going to get me 0 points in an elimination game against the Knicks, then I might as well have a hurt Paul George, because otherwise I just got somebody out there running cardio. Might as well just be on a treadmill. So, I feel like that's a significant step up because, Mo, like you said, we not only get a better scorer, a more efficient and consistent scorer, but a better defender, who is still one of the best two-way players in the league. Even though he's an older guy, he's still one of the best two-way players in the league. So I feel like this was a great investment for the Sixers, not only because of what Paul George can do for the Sixers present, but also for what he can do for the future. Because we have a lot of young guys on the squad that could use that sort of veteran experience and knowledge and mentorship that Paul George could offer. Tyrese Maxey being one. I think that Paul George, especially when you're comparing him to James Harden, like you said, Mo, James Harden had to take the ball out of Tyrese Maxey's hand a lot because, Paul George is running. James Harden was running the run. With Paul George being who he is, it's a better situation for Maxey to thrive and develop in and take an even bigger step forward than he did last year, because Paul George doesn't need the ball in his hands in order to produce. He can play off of Maxey. The offense now can finally run through Maxey, which is really what the Sixers need in order to be as big of a threat as they need to be in order to be a serious contender for the finals. Because we saw that in Brunson. Brunson getting the reins of the offense was just outstanding this year, really looking like a superstar this year, maybe even the second, looking like a top 3 point guard in the league this year. He was able to take control because the offense was his to run. So now that Maxey doesn't have to defer to a James Harden and can actually run the offense, I feel like it'll make it easier for him to develop, but also having another veteran in his ear like Paul George who can run the wings for him, and hit spot up threes. I think that'll be a significant improvement as well. And then you got young guys like Ricky Council and Jared McCain. Jared picking up Jared McCain this year. Ricky Council, I think in his second year now, coming into his second year or third year maybe. But a guy that really didn't play much last year, but who can now learn directly, a young wing who can learn directly from Paul George. Because I think we've gotten insight into the potential of what Ricky Council can be for us, with him exploding in his first summer league game a few days ago, so I feel like him being able to learn directly from Paul George is setting us up for even more success down the road. And then getting a guy like Jared McCain now who can come off the bench showing what he can do, also being able to learn from Paul George. I think just getting Paul George really just stretches out just spreads the floor out for the Sixers team, allowing us to do different things with the lineup, makes us better offensively, better defensively. And he's just just from top to bottom, a improvement statistically from Tobias Harris. He's a better finisher at the rim. He's a better defender. He's a better rebounder. And he's a better scorer who can do more. So now people have to kind of worry more about can't worry about Joel Embiid or Tyrese Maxey as much because now they have another guy who can consistently go for 25 or 30, whenever he gets ready to.
It's good because go ahead, Mo.
Can we talk about the defense though? Like the defense looks really good. Still have Kelly Oubre, who plays great defense. Then you have Paul George definitely. On top of that. You have Caleb Martin, who plays defense. You have Joel Embiid, and you have Andre Drummond. Like I just feel like that defense could be really, really good. And thinking back to that playoff series against the Knicks, like you had Oubre guarding Brunson, but then when Oubre went out, that's when Brunson really started to go off. But now when you add the addition of Paul George, Brunson can't keep going off like that. Like, yeah, he'll have his moments here and there. Not everybody, I'm not saying they're the best defenders in the league. Yeah, but now you have that extra defender who can slow Brunson down.
Right.
I'm just really excited. I've been a Paul George fan since he was on the Pacers. Yeah. So I'm excited for him to kind of get that space that he had. I feel like once he left the Pacers, when he went to OKC, he had Westbrook on his team to where he probably still felt a little, I got to contain myself. Then you had him with the Clippers where he also probably felt I got to contain myself. We got Kawhi, Westbrook, everybody that they had. And I feel like this will be the team for him to where he can go back to his old self. He's able to play the wing. He's able to get the ball when he wants. Maxey is still a threat. Maxey's not going to have the ball at all times, but now you still have to worry about Paul George going off. They now have that spot-up shooter where they have to really pay attention to. Like Jerry was saying, that pick and roll is going to be dangerous because now either if you sag off Maxey. Maxey's not a terrible shooter. Don't get me wrong. He's not a terrible shooter. But then you got to worry about Embiid with the roll, Embiid with the pop, Maxey with the drive. And now you're like, all right, now how am I going to guard, the corner with Paul George in the corner? Like, I'm just excited for them. If Nick Nurse coaches them well, I think they could be fantastic. I think Jared McCain was a great pickup. Seeing him in his first summer league game, he did things that I wasn't expecting. A lot of people look at him as a shooter, but he was directing traffic. He had a couple steals. His shooting, he didn't shoot the best that game. Yeah, he didn't shoot the best that game, but that's going to come. He's a pure shooter. I'm not worried about that. But having Paul George in front of him, having Tyrese Maxey in front of him, I think the young core council as well, like you said, I think the young core is going to learn a lot from having Paul George on their team because if you saw before, they didn't really have that veteran that could really excel them to the next level. Like, yeah, they had James Harden, but James Harden has his little whatever he got going on. Yeah, it's not the same. But now you have that leader who can really take control and really show them the ropes and how to be a superstar. I think this would be a great season for the Sixers. Might not make it all the way first, but I think it's a great stepping stone to what could possibly be for this Philly team.
No, for sure. I think you got three guys now that can average. Somebody this team has the capability like three guys averaging like 28 on a given night. And we know Paul George can get that. We know Joel can go for 50. But if you allow Tyrese Maxey to get loose, that creates problems for the rest of the league. So definitely a chance, to make it far this year.
I like the way the team is looking, especially under a coach like Nick Nurse, a guy who knows how to win. But I still think there are a few pieces that the Sixers are missing, in order to really make a finals finals push, especially with Joel Embiid, being prone to injury. I think the Sixers could use a true spot up three guy, maybe even a 3-and-D guy, someone who can hit shots from the corner. I think we had that in Batum, who there were times where he wasn't as efficient as we needed him to be, but he was still one of the better shooters in the league that were available, that was able to do different things for us. And then I feel like we could use another sort of defender like a Rob Covington, who is available, so there's still a few pieces that I think the Sixers are missing. But, picking up Kyle Lowry today, was I think a big pickup for us, another vet on the squad who knows how to win and who has that chemistry with Nick Nurse, who can come off the bench. Little defense, but I really see him bringing more value to being able to direct traffic and being able to hit open threes. But I still feel like we're missing just a couple more pieces to really push, to really allow us to go the distance. But one thing I will say is I think the liability for the Sixers team will be the same as it always is during playoff time, postseason time of the year, which will be Joel Embiid. I feel like Joel Embiid, like we're in a time like the Sixers right now with Joel Embiid, we're in a win now situation because of Joel Embiid's health status, which is not a place we should be in because of how young how young most of the core part of the Sixers are, so, but I feel like Joel Embiid, he puts us in a little bit of a bind because if he's great during the regular season, looks like an MVP from what, like September to April, but then late April, May, he's deteriorating and is less than like 70%, or if he's on the floor at all. If we don't have a healthy Joel Embiid in the playoffs, then my question is, what do we have him for? Like, what are we being so like, what do we have this superstar for if when it really matters, he can't play? Last year, he's on one knee, he can't feel half of his face, and is still dominant, even when he's hurt. But he has that proneness to be hurt and to be unavailable. So I feel like the Sixers, it's going to be really hard for me to see the Sixers making a finals push if Joel Embiid can't play over 70 games a year, because he hasn't played over 70 games a season since first coming into the league. Really missing his first few years as a Sixer, not playing at all. Mm-hmm. He hasn't played over 70 games any season out of his whole career, and is still a historic big man in the NBA, putting up historic numbers year after year. But my question is, what does that mean if it doesn't translate to the playoffs?
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like you said, like y'all have everything y'all need, bro. Yeah, obviously you say you're missing some pieces, but like you literally have the blueprint. It's just, is Joel Embiid going to be healthy when it comes time to go against the Bucks, the Knicks, the Pacers, the Heat, the Celtics, because at the end of the day, like, I'm gonna be honest, and you guys probably will agree with me, but if Joel Embiid goes down, do you really trust Maxey and Paul George to take over the hump? No. So it all falls on. Really?
What I would say about that is,
I would have faith. I would have faith in them. I think they can. I think they can do it.
The hump, like Eastern Conference Finals.
By themselves, probably not. But
yeah,
I wouldn't. I could see them, taking a couple games.
taking a
I
couple
can see
games.
them possibly taking a few games just
Really
because
don't
you
want
still
that,
have Drummond, but you still have Drummond, who still is, like you said, a 15-10 guy.
He is, but all I'm saying is Joel Embiid needs to be healthy because I personally
for
do
sure.
not trust Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Andre Drummond to take you over the top. Granted, you guys can win a series like the first round, but is winning a couple games enough for Philly? No, not at this point in
It's
time.
it's enough to get Embiid back for a couple games.
But we know Embiid is always – what is Embiid's injuries all the time? Either back or leg. Those two injuries are very pivotal in obviously basketball and in all sports. Like you just can't take a couple games off and then come back and be very dominant and feel fully healthy. We know that.
See,
But if
I could trust Maxey and Paul George after a year of Maxey being comfortable actually running an offense, like a full season of actually running an offense, along with, and this leads into my next point, along with what we would get in return for Embiid. Like I feel like if Embiid, if we see this season Embiid can't make it to the postseason and sustain during the postseason, I feel like it's time to trade him and get a couple role player pieces and maybe some draft picks in exchange for him that would allow us to actually be able to sustain a run. Because we're seeing now, and I talked about this on No Shame with Shane, where we're seeing now in the NBA, that trios aren't as effective as they used to be. Big threes aren't as effective as they used to be. Teams that are winning now, teams that are winning now, if anything, are duos who have a strong supporting cast of good to great role players. We saw that in the Timberwolves this year, and Cat, with their role players in Rudy Gobert, in Naz Reid, in McDaniels, and Mike Conley, guys like that, so, and we saw that in the Knicks this year, having an emerging superstar like Jalen Brunson, and then just a great group of role players behind him, so I think that I could definitely trust Maxey and Paul George if it was with a more enforced group of role players, because with the Knicks, they were able to succeed this year. If it weren't for injuries, they really could have succeeded this year with Jalen Brunson and like 8 to 7 additional role players who do their job well. I feel like we could see that same success with the Sixers if we had Maxey, Paul George, we had a group of role players, an additional 7 to 8 guys who could do their job and sustain well, like Caleb, like Drummond, like Kelly Oubre, like a rising Ricky Council, like Jared McCain off the bench, like an Eric Gordon, so I feel like I could definitely see this Sixers team making a push, but realistically, I don't see them making a push with Joel Embiid if it's not a healthy Joel Embiid. If it's the same thing we saw last year, I don't see the Sixers making a run if it's a Sixers team that is still trying to hang on to Joel Embiid being a guy who can stay healthy and last throughout the postseason. But I can see them winning if it's a Sixers team that is now not even rebuilding, but that has replenished their team, kind of replacing the hole that Joel Embiid would leave.
Yeah, because I feel like now, Joel Embiid, we gave you, y'all about trusting the process. You have Tyrese Maxey, who's, a bona fide becoming a star. Paul George, who's very consistent. It's up to Joel Embiid, like I said before, but I feel like Phillies are going to only give him so much more time. Like, obviously, he has this year, maybe the following year. If he doesn't get it done in one of those 2 years, it may be time to, ship him and get a couple pieces so that you, like you said, Shane, to get some of those role pieces. Because at the end of the day, if you were to trade Joel Embiid, for sure you would get at least 3 solid pieces and some draft picks.
They just need a bench. I feel like they need a bench. Like, looking at the roster, like, who's going to come off the bench where you can get a guaranteed – I mean, Caleb Martin, yeah, but, like, where you're going to get a guaranteed 12-plus points besides Drummond, because he –
McCain might. McCain, I feel like McCain might.
Right away, though?
I think Jared McCain can give you at least 10 to 12. I think.
I can see that.
I'm not gonna put a pass on him. I can see that too. But it is very tricky first year to do something like that.
It is.
I feel like
I
they need, because he's gonna be more of the one. He's gonna play more of a one. He's not gonna play. He's not gonna be. He's not gonna be how he was at Duke, where he's playing in the corner, playing on the wings. He can run an offense here and there. That's not gonna be his position.
Right.
They are missing those extra pieces. They need an extra scorer who's going to come off the bench and run that second unit. They don't have that just yet. And I feel like once they get that, I think they can really, and Embiid staying healthy, I think they can go the extra step.
Right.
Yes, I don't think they match well with Boston just yet, but I think they are on the way to doing that. And I think, I could have a little trust in them. I think they could possibly beat Boston. You feel me? I got a little faith in them.
I just think it's risky because we don't have a lot of years left to where Joel Embiid could be a quality trade piece.
Right.
Like, we're running out of, because he's in his prime now, and Joel Embiid's prime, he's an injury prone player in his prime. And I feel like we have maybe, I just feel like time is really ticking on that clock. I feel like we have maybe 2 years, if that, before teams start to realize, Joel Embiid is not a high value target, for the future, So I feel like time is really running out to where the Eagles could really get a quality haul for this MVP caliber player. This dynamic big man, arguably the best big man in the league, when he's healthy. So I feel like it's risky to continue to allow Joel Embiid to cook and to cook under that Sixer sun, where the longer we have him, the more of a liability he could turn into.
That's just real. Like I say, it's all up to Joel Embiid, and we'll see what Philly can do to bring it home, possibly. But good trade, though.
It was a good trade.
It
was a good trade. One more time, Jerry. What'd you say? One more time?
Philly stand up.
There we go. All right. Well, that's a wrap for tonight's edition of Saber Sports Live. We appreciate you for tuning in. We will be back next week. Hopefully, if we can get everybody's schedule in order, we will be back next week for another edition. But for right now, I'm Shane Fordham with Jeremiah Williams and Monet Money Davis. We're out.